If we don't win against Millenium, then we're out of the LCS, and our goal is to stay in the LCS.
We prepare since 2 weeks, and yeah, we feel confident, and I think we can do it.
Joko is probably the best player there, because the other players haven't really stepped up.
He's maybe a bit better than ROCCAT, but I still think that he was not the main problem where they are losing.
I wanted to be in LCS since Season 1, and I've been trying really hard to get there. I really think we can do it.
I don't feel nervous at all going into promotion.
We are really excited, especially Tabs, for play against ROCCAT because he won their team, so he kind of want the revenge.
We're all really experienced players, and some of us really deserve LCS, if not all of us. Together we work really hard to get there.
I never really feel nervous anymore. I respect everyone, but I don't fear anyone.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to you live from Berlin, Germany, where it is make or break in the 2017 European LCS Spring Promotion Tournament. This week, teams will be fighting for a shot at the big stage as the cream of the challenger crop test themselves against 3 of the not top LCS squads looking to re-qualify for the next split. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined by Richard Polscam and Martin Deficio Lunga for this best of 5 between Millenium and ROCCAT. And gentlemen, you're looking very spiffy today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have borrowed Pyrus waistcoats today.
He allowed us to take them for this one day.
You both did?
Yeah.
Both did.
I see. I wasn't on the memo. I didn't get the invites.
What happened to your voice, Shocks? You sound really different.
I know. I've got a little bit of a flu.
A little raspy.
A little raspy,
yeah.
exactly.
All right,
I'll try working it throughout the show. Before we zoom in on the promotion match, we're going to step back and look at the road that these teams need to travel to join the 2017 European LCS Spring Split. This is the bracket. Today is do or die. Loser between ROCCAT and Millenium is going to go to the Challenger Series, and the winner faces off against Schalke tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. And the games tomorrow will be the most interesting ones, in my opinion, because we'll have, of course, Origin and Misfits, the powerhouse coming in from CS, and Origin as well slumping. It's going to be a very interesting series, and today I feel like we'll be maybe a little bit more one-sided.
Yeah, I think I want to talk a little bit more about those matchups very quickly. Taking a look at what is on the card today, it is that best of 5 to kick off the LCS Spring Promotion Tournament. We've shown you the brackets. Now quickly take a look at how each of the matches will play out. 3 of the 5 teams taking part will advance. We've touched a little bit on Misfits, touched a little bit on Origin. Deficio, what's your take on the games that we're going to see?
So today, I feel like ROCCAT has quite an advantage. Millenium, if they do manage to win, will be quite an upset. I think if Millenium makes LCS, will be a massive upset, because not only do they have to beat ROCCAT, then tomorrow maybe they lose to Schalke, and then they have to beat either Origin or Misfits, obviously on the last day. So you can actually end up playing 3 PU5s across the next few days. Giants did that last year and actually managed to re-qualify. I'm not expecting it from Millenium. I think they're the weakest of the 5 teams in this tournament. But, I mean, we've seen upsets before, and it's not out of this world that they can actually qualify.
No, it's definitely not. The teams that are playing today, of course, they have to win 2 best of 5s to qualify. With both promotion and relegation on the line this week, we want to hear from you guys at home. Fire up your tweeters. Hit us up at LOL Esports and tell us, who do you think will make it to the big leagues and why? We've already heard Deficio say he doesn't think ROCCAT, Millenium rather, is in with a great shot. Who do you think is going to make it?
Well, Misfits, I think, is the easy one, since everyone's talking about how good they are. We've seen them through the CS split as well. I think Origin will probably drop into the games on Sunday. Maybe we'll see ROCCAT there as well, so we'll see maybe one of those go back in. But I think Misfits for sure is the easy shot.
Okay, Deficio, do you share the same opinion?
I think high chance Misfits will qualify, but I'm just not 100% sold on this team like stomping everyone. I think playing on stage in these really important games against LCS teams, it's a whole different beast compared to playing Challenger Series, because we have to be honest, outside of Misfits, there were 5 teams in Challenger Series who weren't very strong this split. So they were just kind of stomping everyone and not really getting challenged. And that's why now they go against like some of these veteran LCS teams. I'm not convinced they're just going to stomp everyone. I want to see it first, at least. Well,
we're going to find out tomorrow. And have to see just how much Origin are slumping. We will take a look at your guys' answers later today after the series ends, and we'll find out which of these two are closer to being correct. And it is time to dive into the best of 5 between that last place LCS team ROCCAT. They are taking on the Challenger finalists, second place Millenium. Let's start with why both teams are here. Maybe let's start with ROCCAT. Deficio.
Well, ROCCAT is here because they lost a lot of games in the ULCS. Obviously, got last place. We did see a few good games towards the end. I feel once they got Memento on the lineup, they got actually better as a team, but it was too late to really get out of the slump or get out of the 10th place they were locked in down in the ULCS.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, they did look better towards the end, as you mentioned, with Memento. On the flip side, Millenium, though, just kind of looking consistent for the whole of the split. Going into semis, they are actually the underdogs, at least in terms of the standings. But then going into the game, when you look at them anecdotally, I didn't actually think they're the underdogs, and actually went 3-1 in that series.
So in this series now, we've taken a look at some of the goal changes, how ROCCAT got better over the split. Do you consider Millenium to be the underdogs again, somewhat here?
Yeah, I think it would be difficult to say they're not the underdogs.
Especially when you consider ROCCAT took a game of Fnatic. Now, is that ROCCAT being good or Fnatic being bad, Deficio?
Could it be a mix?
I mean, both is still an acceptable answer.
Fnatic obviously was slumping, but again, I feel like ROCCAT, once they picked up Memento, they got a more consistent jungler who's not winning you games on his own, but he's not losing you games either, which was kind of one of the problems for Airwax. He was very much like 5-0 or 0-5. Memento just kind of gets the job done. He helps his lanes whenever he needs to. So I feel like ROCCAT against especially a team like Millenium will be much stronger with Memento because there's not a chance of him like gambling in the early game, falling behind and then losing the game for his team. No, he's just going to be steady, solid. He's going to set up Steelback and Betsy, I feel, to carry these games. And I think they're better than the counterparts on Millenium when it comes to being like a strong mid lane and strong AD carry. And that's why I think ROCCAT just have like better players across the entire board, honestly. And that's what's going to get them past Millenium today.
Pulse, you've got the most experience casting Millenium this split. Their style, their approach to the game. Do you think it's fair what Deficio's saying, or do you think Millenium stand a better shot?
So I at least echo the fact that maybe individually they are stronger, and when you look at every single player across the board in the one-on-ones, but what really made Millenium shine, at least in Challenger, was the way they were able to group up and actually use their compositions. They were as a macro team, significantly better than the other teams that were influxed in the center, which in the end allowed them to edge ahead of at least Humo that we saw in the semifinals. So in that case, that might be how they win the game, if they manage to get to mid-game, at least on even setting, and then maybe try and win the game from there.
Okay, so get to mid-game and even setting. Then we have to talk about the carries here. Tabs on your screen. Former LCS, actually former ROCCAT player as well. Now in Challenger, obviously we heard some big words from him in the Challenger final, saying my experience and leadership. It didn't help out there. What do we expect against Tabs, especially when we consider his opposite number is Steelback, Deficio?
I think Tabs is a very smart player, always had a lot of respect for his knowledge. So I definitely don't expect him to come in here and have a poor performance or have terrible positioning. I think he's good in terms of positioning. He understands how to team fight. But compared to Steelback, I think there's a massive difference. I feel like Steelback is still one of the really great AD carries we have in Europe. And he's the kind of guy who puts his team on the back and can actually go like 10-0 in a game. Tabs will not do that. He will set up the rest.
He does even more. If you look at some of the league stats, which I just happen to have in front of me. In terms of the people who have died the most across every LCS player, the first highest deaths, the second highest deaths, and the third highest deaths are Raze, Parang, and Betsy, respectively. Right? 1, 2, and 3 on the same team. The person who's got the second highest kills in the entire league is Steelback. What a weird, how do you explain that difference?
Well, first of all, you got to get kills somehow. And I feel like with ROCCAT, it's a lot of okay, try and do everything you can and then die, and then everyone is almost dead, and then Steelback can step in and really have great positioning and actually take down these targets. I don't want to say he's a clean-up AD carry anymore. I actually think he's
You just said that!
Well, I know, I didn't mean like that. He's a legit carry, right?
Okay.
He's a legit carry.
That happens to clean up as well.
Who happens to clean up because he's good enough, understanding when he can go in and actually deal damage, when he has to step back. And that's why whenever everyone else dies around him, he's the last man standing.
This is where I ask for predictions. I know you're going to predict ROCCAT because you've just been talking about them a whole lot. Pulse, will ROCCAT beat Millenium?
Honestly, I have to say ROCCAT as well, but with the caveat that I think it's at least going to go 4 games. I think Millenium will be able to take a game. I'm generally looking at the first game as the one that they could upset, but I think there's a very real possibility that Steelback's going to go 1v9 montage material.
1v9 montage. Even disappointed Deficio agrees. We're almost ready for picks and bans in the first game of the day, but before we hand it over to our casters, Millenium's Joko tells us how Millenium has had their eye on taking down ROCCAT since the EUCS finals.
We can't accept that they will go relegation because they was the last and they didn't do so well. So we think we're gonna play against them and we prepare since 2 weeks. And yeah, we feel confident and I think we can do it. We know they want to swap if there is a good Drake. They will always go for Drakes in early because they like it. So we kinda punish them for doing this.
I'm Daniel Sifa Dracos, and joining me here at the caster desk for Game 1 is James Stress O'Leary. Good to hear words from Joko.
Yeah, good to hear Joko. Some of the stuff still holds up. We are still on 6-14, so some of that lane swapping and around Drake priority, gonna watch out. If
The last lane swap tournament we're going to see here is EU LCS promotion tournament. It'll be interesting to see how it affects these guys. But of course, let's take a chance to run down the rosters. Starting on the blue side, runners-up in the Challenger Series final, Millenium. In the top lane, Kaze, their jungler Joko, mid lane Pretty, AD carry Tabs, support Masterwork, and their coach Lida.
Unfortunately for Millenium, it wasn't the best performance last time they were here on the stage, losing 0-3 to Misfits. We'll see if they can have a little bit more luck up against the ROCCAT team. Obviously, EU LCS 10th place in the top lane is Parang. Jungle is Memento. Mid lane is Betsy. AD carry of Steelback. Support Raze, and their coach is Grabs.
And as it was mentioned on the desk, these guys looked a little bit better in the final weeks. It looks like having Memento on the team has been an improvement. And of course, as Deficio said, maybe not because Memento is the best player, but Memento is willing to play back, is willing to be more passive, whereas Airwax seemed like a guy who wanted to get aggressive all the time, and it never really worked out for him.
For better or worse for
Yes.
Airwax at that point. Memento does seem to have steadied the team. There's an elephant in the room. ROCCAT got a win over the, at the time, third place Fnatic. In the last week. So we've got to look at this and be like, ROCCAT can live up to at least mid to higher table expectations on the odd occasion. I'm not saying that they're like top tier material or anything like that, but
No, and I think you have to give them credit. They beat Fnatic at the end of the day. Whatever's going on with Fnatic, ROCCAT did still secure that win. And while it's maybe not the greatest indicator of how good ROCCAT are overall, we still have to remember this is an LCS lineup. They did take, despite the fact that they lost the majority of the games, they did still take games off of a lot of different LCS squads, and they have shown us some pretty good stuff.
They even 2-0'd Schalke the previous week. So it's like they've had enough results to give me hope, but at the same time, as Deficio said, they lost so much game after game in the early part of the season.
Of course, here we are getting geared up for Champion Select. Early season was good for ROCCAT. We'll have to see if we can see some of that level of performance. We praise them for their team fighting, but one of the picks already taken off the table. Rise, Gnar, banned away. Interesting that that's been taken away already.
These are going to be very highly contested picks when you look at the Shen and the Rise. Both of these teams have been playing it in their respective finals. I believe Millennium's was before the Rise rework actually came about, so we didn't actually see that since, but we had seen that from Betsy. That's one of the players that has been playing it here in Europe.
Of course, with Karma, Shen, Gangplank banned away as well, it seems like there's a lot of attention being paid to these solo laners. Some of this feels really standard. The Karma, you know, you got the Shen. This feels normal. ROCCAT are banned for LCS. Millennium, these are some target bans right here. You got Rise, you got Gnar, you got GP.
Straight away taking out some of the more successful champions in recent times. Nidalee has made it through the picks and bans phase, but for those of you that are maybe not so accustomed to Joko, has not played a game of Nidalee this split. He's tended way more towards the Rek'Sai, the Gragas that we've seen, so we may see that as a #1 priority. Sivir is up as well, another champion that we don't typically see available up at the top level.
Very frequently left open, but an almost instantaneous lock-in from Kaze, picking up that Gragas for Joko. Now, in the past, we have seen that Gragas flex to the top lane, but it's been a long time. So we'll assume that that's going to the jungle. And this is, of course, a comfort pick coming up for Joko. It's his most played overall on the champion, 4-4. The overall record, 8 games on it.
Speaking of comfort picks, something that we were talking about coming into this is Parang hovered the Jace. I'm not going to talk too much, but I'm interested to see where the pick and ban priority lies for ROCCAT, because site selection will remain the same for all 5 games coming into this series. So ROCCAT, I'm wondering whether they're going to look for comfort towards mid lane and give the likes of Fiora over to Parang as they are intending by the hovers for now, or whether that'll switch up, because Parang, we know, has a lot of different comfort picks, and we hadn't even realized the Malzahar was still available.
We're not used to it.
Millennium have made such a different picks and bans setup to what everybody else does against ROCCAT, which is target out Betsy. This game, they've targeted Parang.
Really interesting adaptation. Now, ROCCAT finalizing this first rotation. It will be the Sivir Alistar here, so a lot of mobility, a lot of engage. Raze, of course, has had some highlight reel moments on this champion and has, you know, been the decisive trigger finger that ROCCAT needed in some of those team fights. Of course, they've left a lot open. Malzahar still on the table. Definitely. 6-15 obviously going to see some pretty hefty nerfs, but 6-14 still a relatively strong champion overall. Now, My big question is ROCCAT, as we mentioned, consistently picking red side. Millenium happy to give it to them as well in the games they had the opportunity. What do you think ROCCAT are going to use this last pick for? Do you use it for Betsy? Do you use it for Parang? What makes the most sense?
With Malzahar open, I would say they should pick the Malzahar and look to counterpick for top lane in this. But this is a very obtuse first lock-in from ROCCAT. When you look at the support pool, hasn't really been pinched too hard. Karma and Trundle are gone, but you still have the likes of the Bard. You've still got the likes of the Braum, the Thresh that we've seen a lot out of Raze, but he has been playing more Alistar than a lot of people. They forego the Malzahar for this and take away, you know, their AD carry pick themselves for Steelback. Obviously, the Sivir has worked fairly well for them as well, but ROCCAT giving away the Malzahar pretty freely here to Millenium, giving that just as a second opportunity for Millenium. Really strange compared to what we've seen just across the world.
And while it's odd to give away Malzahar, Millenium are once again prioritizing the Lucian. Now, last time we saw Millenium play, we were a bit critical of the priority on Lucian when they were playing against Huma. It was a pick that was not working out for them. Tabs, of course, very successful on the utility AD carries like Ashe and Jhin. Now, his Lucian had a few highlight moments, but it's a little bit questionable that they're picking it up so early. I guess maybe just a little bit of a comfort pick here for the bot lane matchup. But ROCCAT, they waste no time on that second rotation. Hecarim locked in alongside of the Swain.
Yeah, Hecarim and Swain. Betsy's one of the only people really still playing Swain after a lot of the nerfs. In Challenger, we did see a couple of Swains go up to the top lane, but I wouldn't bank on that happening. It's not something the ROCCAT themselves have actually done. This pick and ban phase, the pacing from ROCCAT has actually not necessarily been upside down as such, but we look at how Millenium already picked their jungler, so there was no rush for ROCCAT to pick the likes of a Nidalee in the first rotation, no chance of that being stolen away, so they actually now pivot away to the Hecarim, get themselves an engage tool now alongside the Alistar, and ROCCAT are basically looking to come out of the laning phase in a decent standing, but team fight their way past Millenium, and that is something Millenium have looked so very good at in Challenger. I'm wondering whether Millenium can hold up to that.
Yeah, playing around it at least a little bit. Fiora going to be locked in alongside the Braum. That is a powerhouse support for Masterwork, one we see very frequently taken away in early rotations in the LCS, but left to the last rotation here.
Now, there's one pick that is going to work fairly well on team fighting if they can get it, if they want. Kind of a bruiser style. Parang has played a lot of Echo, and we have seen the resurgence. Earlier in rehearsal where we were talking about this, you were mentioning the Echo coming out from Parang, and I was like, yeah, okay, that does make sense. And now when you look at the bans that are here, the GP's gone, the Nara is gone, there's no Shen, no Trundle, and we're looking for something that can hold up in team fights as well as put pressure out in the side lane. It looks perfect for Parang, and it gets locked in. Kudos for you for rehearsal, Sifa, for prompting
yes,
that.
the off-air praise. I thought, you know, in Parang, when we talked about ROCCAT being an amazing team-fighting team, a lot of that was because Parang was so good at playing Echo, at being unkillable, at being obnoxious in the back lines, at using that snapback, that ultimate at the perfect time. But of course the question is he going to be able to keep on this? It's not as strong as a pick as it used to be, and can he still perform at the same level? Because he's going up against a Fiora, which is a pick that you cannot afford to let get ahead of you at any point.
It's not quite as strong perhaps in the same way that it used to be, but now you have a little bit more damage coming out from the Trinity Force, a little bit less focused on just being a tanky frontline that kind of can just do anything and everything. So we've seen it a lot in LCK, and now we're seeing it here in the European promotion tournament. For Millenium, though, they have very strong side laners if they end up swapping up to double teleport if they want it. But we are heading into this game, and we'll see what they actually end up with, as Kaze was trolling a little bit.
Really interesting. Of course, guys, you've seen the comps. Now it's time to watch the fight for the big stage as ROCCAT and Millenium get on the Rift.
I don't think they're anything special, like skill-wise. I think they're pretty decent, I guess.
We are really excited, especially Tabs, for play against ROCCAT.
I think Joker's alright jungler, nothing special really.
I know I can outperform my opponents.
All of the team really want to go LCS, so we will try our hardest to get there.
We're stronger than the other teams.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the first game in a best-of-5 that will decide who has to walk away empty-handed, sent back to the challenger ladder, and who will get one more shot at qualifying or re-qualifying for the EU LCS 2017 spring season. Both teams moving out quickly. The last era of lane swaps. Stress.
We're not quite in a lane swap in this game, though. ROCCAT.
No, it's looking pretty standard.
Yeah, looking standard for now. Still got time to swap up if we want. Obviously, Tab's now playing the Lucian into the Sivir. Wants a little bit more lane presence when it comes to being able to hold his own against the Sivir, but Steelback has shown he's very adept at being able to hold his own in those kind of scenarios. It is going to be a lane swap, though, coming out. ROCCAT are going to delay it, but you can see on the other side of the rift, so have Millenium. Heading up to the top side, we're going to end up in Australia lanes. And the first dragon is going to be Mountain. So we heard Joko talking about that a lot. Mountain is the key.
Now, interestingly enough as well, the double blind swap means we will get the reverse all lanes, the Australia lanes, as you mentioned, and Braum Lucian, kind of the terrifying kill lane of days past. But as you said, Steelback, he's not really a guy that gives up to that kind of pressure. Even if they may have the laning advantage, Steelback is a guy who, despite his team's failings, has always been able to get more.
Oh, could be caught out here, though, if Steelback actually gets separated from Raze. Or maybe it's Raze that they're looking for, because Raze is in the enemy jungle.
They're going to see him on the ward, though. Where's he going to go?
He's coming right back up the river.
It's going to be a Raze.
Does he know?
Nope. Shot goes in, concussive blows. 2 stacks, looking for a third. He's going to get it. A little bit more damage. Are we going to get any summoners out of this? Raze, not even forced to flash, but losing so much health. And Masterwork's not done with him yet. Trying to hit him with the chair here. A little WWE smackdown. Raze getting the back end of that trade for sure, and that is a significant deficit in the laning phase already.
Yeah, it is. This is going to make it a lot tougher for ROCCAT in this 2 versus 2. Have to be careful now of Tabs chaining some damage down onto the Alistar. For the first few levels now, ROCCAT have to concede this lane until Raze can actually heal his way back up. He only has Pulverize right now, so he's kind of just waiting, allowing these minions to kind of come forward to them. Once he gets the stacks of the Relic Shield, we'll heal it back up. So should be able to be okay. You can see he's got a couple of stacks there ready to go.
Yeah, losing out on a little bit of pressure here. So watch the poke start to come in from Tabs. But meanwhile, Betsy doing a very good job against Pretty in the mid lane. Now, we have seen this mid lane matchup before in LCS. Betsy pulled this out against a Malzahar once before, I believe, and it looked like a pretty effective option for dealing with the Malzahar passive and his ability to ignore that burst damage.
Yeah, well, here goes Betsy going aggressive on to Pretty, and honestly, Pretty is a player that has somewhat struggled ever since we kind of see him play different mid lane champions. We haven't seen him too much since the hits to Victor and Azir, but generally was a big Victor, Anivia player. Pretty's pulled out, and some of these champions aren't quite as effective now as they used to be. We're seeing a lot more of the Malzahar. We're seeing even LeBlanc come back here in Europe when you look at players like Senkux and Ryu bringing it back out. But I'm interested to see how Pretty is going to be able to cope in a best of 5, because I don't think Malzahar is going to be available every single game.
And additionally, as we watch these guys actually trade back and forth, probably not going to commit for anything. Betsy also isn't really known for playing a very standard set of champions. Also likes to pull out, very committed to playing this Swain, very proficient at it as well. And you have to wonder how each of these guys are really going to adapt to each other when we're already seeing some sort of, I wouldn't say oddball counter picks with the Echo, but some definitely some priority on these counter picks coming in.
Yeah, and a lot of that is because of how much priority was put on mid lane in the picks and pans phase. Parang had a lot of his champions banned away from him by ROCCAT and by Millenium, so Betsy got a lot more freedom than he's used to getting. When you look at all of like the top champions banned against ROCCAT, it's all like Swain, Vlad, Malzahar, like all of these champions are away from Betsy, and for once he's like, hey guys, I've got everything available. This is like the first few weeks of the split. Doesn't seem to matter though, because bot lane, Parang.
Just gonna have to flash out. Joker gonna flash in after him. They're looking for a little bit more parallel convergence. It may look to get the stun. The parry though, a great first blood. Kaze sees it and takes the free ticket for stun.
Parang, he was trying to dodge the riposte coming out so he wouldn't get locked down, but it also meant he had to dodge out of the shield. Oh, in goes Raze.
More aggressive play coming in. Tabs dashing out, looking for a bit more damage. Good spell shield from Steelback. Exhaust goes down. Masterwork maybe overstaying his welcome, but aggression traded back and forth on both sides of the map.
Oh, Memento wants to go. Only level 4 though, so no ultimate available.
Raze, TP coming in. Masterwork left alone. Knock back into the team. Decent damage going down. Memento tanking the tower, but Parang is back and he's hungry for blood. That's going to be a kill over Tabs. He's going to walk his way out of that one. Map movement coming in for ROCCAT. They're not satisfied with that first blood.
And these are the kind of areas that we're expecting the LCS teams to be able to capitalize on that don't get punished in Challenger. Kaze just TP'd back to the bottom lane after the kill so that he would just get the rest of the farm. He's like, okay, well, Parang's going to do the same. I'm going to compound my lead, keep getting further ahead. Thing is, ROCCAT go, no. We're going to make a play up in the top lane, bring the jungler up, 4 versus 2. Millenium, without a teleport, get punished fairly heavily now, and Parang has just equaled up everything that he just lost down in the bottom lane.
Exactly, I think, where he wanted to be. You can see the farm differential. Echo did give up a decent amount, but happy to get this gold back as we watch this one more time.
As soon as the TP comes out, the pings have already gone down. They delay it so that Kaze has completed. There's no way he can get anywhere close to this, and it's an easy pickup here. The next thing ROCCAT have done is actually left Parang in the top lane and swapped their duo lane down to the bottom lane. And what that does is all of the farm Kaze that just picked up in the bottom lane is now kind of mirrored on the other side. Not quite, because there wasn't as much in the way for Parang to pick up, but the experience, some farm, and now the forced swap from Kaze is going to delay him farming further. And this is ROCCAT's nice reaction to the initial pressure put on Parang, and this is what we've come to expect.
And when we look at the gold and we look at the kill score being evened out, there's not a whole lot of difference between the teams, but we start to look at the CS, you can see a difference starting to emerge in favor of ROCCAT. Not quite 10 CS in the mid lane for the Swain. The Sivir, of course, getting a decent amount as well, as that wave did crash into the tower and deny tabs a decent amount. But these small advantages kind of start to build up. And ROCCAT, despite losing out on that first blood, are coming back into this game in a pretty decent way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at when ROCCAT are going to decide to fight and when. I mean, level 6 is a very obvious point for them. As soon as Memento gets there, he gives them the engage tool. Steelback's going to run at people. Betsy becomes so much more tanky when it comes to at least being able to survive, and Parang will have his ultimate available to jump back too. So ROCCAT becomes so much more difficult to deal with within the next 30 seconds that Millenium have to just be aware of where Memento is. He's now to 6. Ghost is nearly up. It's about 10 seconds away from being available, so could just look to run right into this tower. However, look, Joko is bottom. The ward has spotted Memento. ROCCAT have been rumbled.
Yeah, and good movement coming in from Joko. Had the level 6 ahead of time as well, so free to just spend time in that bush, not worried about sapping the XP. But Parang really suffering out in the top lane. Kaze not giving him a break, not letting him get a few items under his belt. Instead, just laying down the early harass here.
And this is one of the problems right now for Parang, at least is the 1 versus 1 matchup, because Parang doesn't have any kind of solid items, hasn't even got one of the components of Trinity Force. He's got bits and pieces of the segmented items, whereas on the other side, Kaze now has the Tiamat, will be able to trade fairly effectively. Keep in mind, Fiora got a bunch of lane-based buffs. Added a little bit on the heal for proccing the vitals, a little bit more damage comes from the Q, so when you pair that with the Tiamat, it's small additions, but just makes standing in this lane harder for Parang.
Of course, and as we see Pretty move to solo take down this blue buff, one of the perks of Malzahar. Fiora, of course, a champion that in her kit just has so much power that these small nerfs can bring her back, or small buffs rather, can just bring her back to the meta in an instant. All it takes is a little bit of scaling buff, a little bit of a sustain buff. Ooh. Here we go, Parang.
He's back.
He's back. Nice little trick for anyone who isn't aware of it. Echo, of course. Just quick snap back to lane. Makes it pretty easy. Don't have to burn teleport every time. Could be an advantage as they move forward, but of course, no get out of jail free card if Fiora ever gets the all in.
Yeah, exactly. The punish is you kill Echo now. you bring someone top, you kill him. It's like, oh, you don't have an ultimate. Great. Everything comes up for Millenium at that point. Kaze, on the other hand of that, hasn't been back in a little while, though. Junglers aren't really around in the top lane for Millenium. At least you can see Joko's hanging around mid, has been spotted. So Parang knows he has the freedom. Just a short shopping trip to pick up the Phage for himself, give himself a little bit more survivability, but Parang's impact is not going to be in the laning phase. Parang's impact will be on the flank opportunities that are given to him when the team starts team fighting. And let's not really overlook something that we haven't talked about yet, and that's that Betsy is running teleport on this Swain as well. So ROCCAT have the multiple options when it comes to joining fights and cross-mapping when it's available to.
And we've seen exactly how terrifying Betsy can be when he gets a lead, whether he's grouped with the team or whether he's propped up in a side lane and allowed to push in. Swain, not a pick you want to let get ahead of you. Of course, definitely not the strongest mid laner right now, but anyone with a lead can make it terrifying, and Betsy, a true Swain veteran, makes it that much scarier. Millenium, they're not giving up anything yet, and ROCCAT aren't really moving to take anything aggressively. Both teams seem rather content to just continue extending this laning phase. And for Kaze, that looks pretty good. 90 to 72, the farm difference there.
Yeah, it's a nice little farm difference for them. It is evened up on the bottom side of the map, but one thing I think is key to keep in mind is that Millenium made 2 plays to begin this game. They waited for Raze in the bush, as we see Memento and Joko trade, and then they made the play onto Parang in the top lane. I like both of those plays, sorry, the bottom lane. But then ROCCAT reacted fairly well. Steelback played a little bit further back in the lane, now has got himself a CS lead because Memento went up to that lane as well. They brought Parang in, and ROCCAT have managed to stabilize themselves off 2 early plays by Millenium that should really have netted them a lead. This game's even, though, between the two.
Yeah,
they
they're
want
not
to go
looking to keep it even. They're looking to make an aggressive play here. Going to get some damage down. On the hunt comes in. Raze moving forward. Masterwork in trouble. In goes the team. Down goes the Hecarim ultimate. Masterwork going to fall. TP's coming in, TP's canceled, and ROCCAT are going to walk away with the quick kill.
Yeah, Kaze cancelled his, so did Parang, so ROCCAT now won't lose anything in the top lane, and Betsy never even used his to get down there. However, look at Millenium already moving out on the map. They want to try and set something up on Parang, who has his ultimate available again, but Parang's already backed away from the turret. Smart play just to recognize that Pretty had gone missing from mid lane. Now Betsy will able to shove that back out and is able to at least hold on there.
Yeah, taking the opportunity to grab a little bit of the jungle farm. Not going to lose out too much on gold, but at the end of the day, it will be a trade for towers, it looks like. As Millenium look to take this one down. But in the meantime, ROCCAT just going to back off, spend their gold from that kill, and look to sort of just reset after the towers are traded.
Yeah, oh, Echo just ulted back into the lane. I think he's a little too late, though. This tower is going to go down because of that cannon minion being there. If that had been any other wave, he may have been able to save it, but with no TP and now no ultimate, ROCCAT, Parang at least is going to have a little less effect on the game, but this is the engage. Betsy had already run down here, so no real teleport usage until after Kaze starts channeling his. That's when they both cancel from the top lane and back themselves away.
Not a bad decision either. Parang, though, does get a little bit of CS back, and he has pretty decent deficit as we push forward, but it's balanced out by the mid laner and the AD carry here. Steelback, 17 lead, about a 10 lead for Betsy in the mid lane as he continues to pressure forward. Pretty a little bit late to come back to the laning phase, and ROCCAT looks like they want to get more. They want to keep pressuring down on these towers, and Betsy continuously trying to take jungle camps from Joko, which, to be honest, is a little rude, but I respect any man who wants gold that much.
Betsy's going for the inverse Froggen, where you always take the enemy jungle camp.
Ah, I see.
It's like, I could take mine, or I'm going to go over to your side of the map, and I'm going to take those instead. But ROCCAT have decided they want the Mountain Drake. Joko talked about how ROCCAT often prioritize Dragon early. This is not a particularly early first Dragon at all. 13 minutes in. A little faster than we had seen.
Oh, Joko's still going to get it! Flash over the wall. A nice disrespectful steal. Millenium happy to walk away with that one. It looks like Joko's knowledge of ROCCAT's early priorities does pay off for him.
ROCCAT taking their eyes off the prize for a second. Did not clear out the ward in the back of the pit. In goes Joko, steals it away. Easy steal for him there. Man, okay, so Millenium get themselves something in this situation. Get themselves now that extra damage to objectives. We'll see what the second one is. It's going to be another Mountain Drake. So if Millenium do get that, despite kind of falling behind early, there is the real potential for them to then stand in front of towers and just push them down. They've got the Fiora, this will benefit. You've got the Lucian as well.
I mean, additionally, think about the potential for them to take a Baron with this Malzahar and additionally having double Mountain Drake. If they get it, it's such a fast take. Voidlings, of course, love nothing more than a target that wants to stand still. So
they just multiply, multiply.
It's gross. You never want to see that many Voidlings, but it does lead to a pretty quick Baron. Yeah. Things are calm right now, Stress. We got I feel like a little passive period here in the lane. Everything's reset after that dragon.
Yeah, we're back up to Australian lanes again. This is somewhat unorthodox. Normally we don't see both teams opt to maintain the laning phase by swapping back up into Australia lanes. At this point, normally you're looking for single lane pushes, or at least
pretty
side.
Just gonna flash away.
Yeah.
Playing a little bit too much footsie with Betsy there. Doesn't respect the potential for an unwanted third party.
Memento was there as well, so Pretty didn't want Betsy to get rid of his shield and then ult him so that he would have been forced to flash anyway. So burns the flash. It's all good. Although Masterwork, I don't know whether you want to be doing this.
It's not quite what you wanted. Fighting for the pink ward. Here comes the TP from both sides. Masterwork once again caught out and in trouble, but he's going to block the Boomerang Blade. Low health as he dashes in for his ally. Parang looking for a bit more, and Memento comes in. He's challenged up, and Kaze looking to knock him down, trying to get the heal. Parang snaps back, though, and they're going to get in. Betsy continuing to burn down Pretty, and the Malzahar Hall does absolutely nothing as ROCCAT pick up the double kill.
That's one of the first times I've seen Malzahar ult onto the pool as well. Do almost nothing. Betsy was just healing up throughout
He just goes bird form, and you're just giving him more targets with those Voidlings. He just gets to heal for free.
Rod of Ages, plus he's got the Negatron cloak as well at that point, can just withstand everything that was thrown at him, and ROCCAT ended up coming out of that with 2 kills onto the 2 carries as well. Kaze fell and Pretty fell, so this is a good start again by ROCCAT. They've now extended their lead to about 1,000, so we're going to check out the beginning of this fight again. Masterwork was the initial target for this. Memento kind of got shoved to Braum, just in case he wanted him at that point. Kaze comes in and makes a bit of a nuisance of himself, but actually then draws the attention of 4 people. Didn't catch it the first time, but Parang was forced to ultimate back on top of himself. So there was Betsy just lasting through Pretty, and not a lot you can do about that. Steelback gets the 2 kills and puts his lead even further out of reach for Millenium. Now it's about 30 CS plus 2 kills. Massive lead for this AD carry.
And additionally, 2 Trinity Forces finished up. One for the Echo as Raze. We caught sleeping. Oh no! Kaze is the one who has been caught sleeping. He tries to parry, but it may be not enough. Ray's going to have to back away here. He's so low. He does not have the ultimate. Kaze cutting him down. A massive turn as the double kill comes in for the top laner. And they may not be done yet. They do. In the end, back off of Steelback. What a turnaround, and what was Raze doing?
Yeah, Millenium just brought everybody up to the top side at that point. Looked like they were maybe looking for the Rift Herald anyway, and then just kind of find Raze. And as you said, no ultimate was available during that exchange for Raze. It was only about 10 seconds away from coming up, but still, that's 10 seconds too late to save the support's life. And just as soon as ROCCAT managed to take somewhat of a lead for themselves, they've lost it now to Millenium, who have a slight gold lead, plus now that glimpse of the void on, Raze just
shot.
I think they just thought he was fine though, because Steelback and Memento are here. They think, okay, well, we'll just save him. And then Memento and Steelback kind of don't fully commit, and Joko and Kaze show up. Kind of a weird little exchange.
I don't really know what was going on there. Raze, of course, was so close to having that ultimate backup. I guess just not really respecting the survivability of Kaze. He's got that lifesteal, he's got that sustain, and it's not enough damage coming in quite yet. We mentioned the double Trinity Force earlier, and that's wonderful, and of course it's going to help you trade out, but it will not help you survive if you're not going to be able to dish out any effective damage there, or if you get collapsed on immediately in the case of Memento.
And of course, the Trinity Force on the Hecarim, we're seeing a whole bunch of, used to be a second item thing, and now it's like a just get that first and everything's fine, which I'm still not sure I buy into if you're not winning every lane, but fairly luckily for ROCCAT, they are ahead in mid and in AD carry, so it's not like the Hecarim is relied on for everything in this game. We'll see where Memento goes from here. Normally just into tank after that. Allows you to be the engage tool, the rest of your team follow up. You don't really get too much more damage after that. But, that rush before the jungle item is fairly standard these days. Maxwell was talking about it during the post-game lobby the other day. Pretty interesting that Trinity Force is the first item for a jungler. Normally too expensive.
Yeah,
Hecarim
it's like rushing IE first on a jungler. That's how expensive that item is. Ugh. A little ridiculous, but of course you can see how effective it's been for Hecarim across the globe, and we'll have to see if it works out for Memento here. Joko on the opposite side, already very tanky. Decent farm lead as well, 1-0 and 3 for this Gragas, who's praised as the best member of this team. Looks to be coming true so far, although Kaze's making a good case for himself as well.
Making a decent case. It's not actually the most expensive feeling item to buy, because you got 3 nice points and then it's only like 333. You know what, as we find Joko caught out here, the most awkward item to buy is Rabadon's Death Cap, because you buy an Evilcy Large Rod and you still got like 1,200 to pay after you've got all the components. Like, that is a frustrating item.
Yeah, Zanya's also.
It's not so bad these days.
These days, old Zanya's.
Old one, yeah, where you're like 1050. 1050.
Wonderful combined costs. Nothing feels as good as spending 1,000 goals on an item active. Yeah, of course, Trinity Force, you can buy it in bits and pieces. Relatively easy to afford comparatively.
We're seeing another steal come out here. ROCCAT have let this reset slightly. There is a ward in the back of this pit again.
Joko.
Please use a sweep.
ROCCAT. No, Joko.
Oh my, he's got it again.
This
ROCCAT,
man's flash
come
has
on.
been exclusively used for stealing dragons for the last 10 minutes.
I don't know what ROCCAT are doing in that scenario because Memento has a pink ward.
You don't, I mean, you just don't back off when it's 1,500. I'm sorry, ROCCAT. That was questionable.
Okay,
my friend.
the first one, I'll kind of say, good job, Joko.
Yeah, you stole it.
So-
That time it was delivered on a silver platter, as apparently Parang was as well. Gonna have to take a look at that 1v1 again, because we missed the context there, but turns out Rift Herald Fiora, a little bit oppressive in the lane phase.
She's 4-1 as well, so Kaze now is on a roll now, taking down this turret. I do not know what has happened to ROCCAT in the last 3 or 4 minutes here, because they have decided, ever since Raze got caught on the top side of the map, ROCCAT seem in real trouble when it comes to their map movement. So Kaze goes aggressive.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that damage.
That is so much damage.
Straight up kills him.
Okay. Well, we wanted to know. I was expecting an insane 1v1 where everyone used their cooldowns effectively. Oh, no.
No,
Kaze is just huge.
Like, just auto attack.
Just massive Fiora.
Q auto, a couple more, puts the ult down, doesn't even matter. 4-1 currently. Now has a BF sword alongside the Black Cleaver and Ravenous Hydra, so...
Echo is on one item and is buying pieces for the next. This is not a good look for ROCCAT, and definitely not where Parang wanted to be in this exchange.
Certainly not. I don't know what ROCCAT are doing right now. They've kind of sat back and are just allowing Millenium to do anything here. Steelback still has himself a little bit of a lead, but I'm now worried for Steelback in these fights because if Kaze finds him, he's going to annihilate Sivir. Like, there is almost no way, unless you can, like, perfect spell shield the first Q that comes in or the ultimate somehow and just make sure that Fiora never manages to get the damage off by peeling for her. That's a tough ask, though, in the team fight. It's a lot on Raze, and to some extent, Betsy with a Never.
Maybe Memento? I mean, they do have okay peels for Tool, but they're so unreliable against that Fiora, and really, who is going to be able to stop her pushing in the side lane? Because we know the answer is not Parang. And unfortunately, he is once again matched up with this Fiora, who we can be reasonably sure is going to kill him if he can't just clear the waves immediately.
That's the other thing. Parang knows it can't be Parang either at this point, so he's got to be very, very careful, because the last time he died, it was under turret as well. So honestly, a lot of it is the fact Raze has an exhaust as well, so if that hits Kaze, they can lock the Fiora down. Perhaps that's okay, but it doesn't matter because Kaze just took out the turret. 2 Mountain Drakes and a fed Fiora means goodbye any structure.
Well, and additionally, the Rift Herald. And now ROCCAT are TPing to the mid lane, maybe looking to trade back a tower of their own. They already got one on the top side, and they want to swing this in their advantage. Coling comes out, body blocked by Raze. Memento maybe overstaying is welcome.
Here come the top laners.
Oh, the fight's starting to break out. The ultimates have been used, and Raze is in trouble, but the ultimate is going to keep him alive. Fiora calls the challenge, looking for the duel. They're knocked back, and Memento set to drop, but he makes it out. Snapback comes in from Parang. Joko in trouble. ROCCAT are turning the fight. 2-for-1 exchange in their advantage. What a mess. That was insane that so many people managed to survive. Hecarim barely makes it out, but my God, both teams just so hungry for blood.
Big mess of a fight in the mid lane at that point. Kaze tried to teleport into the fight, but couldn't really hang on to things because Kaze gets exhausted. Watch for it. Raze goes aggressive and manages to come back up and exhaust Kaze right at the last second. And from that, Kaze had to come back down. He couldn't really get onto Steelback and Betsy without taking a lot of damage, and that's where the fight started to turn back around for ROCCAT and Kaze. Too low on mana, too low on health to really make an impact against 3 here. Seemingly didn't trust in Tabs and the rest of Millenium to be looking to go forward there. They were already backing away.
And Parang and Betsy chain CC there between the parallel convergence and the never move. Really strong, I mean, teamfight coordination. We praised them for it before, and it was on these picks. It's pretty good for them thus far. Of course, need to kind of tighten up the decision-making here as they push forward. They've brought it back to just about even, of course, between the Rift Herald buff and the 2 Mountain Dragons. Millenium do still have a lead, but it's not in the gold anymore. And now, as ROCCAT sets up to control this area around Baron, this is a good opportunity for them to potentially use this very strong composition.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity, but I gotta look at what Millenium have done so far in this game. Aside from a couple of mistakes here and there, generally have been able to regroup fairly
moving forward,
effectively.
Memento gonna dash out. Kaze on the hunt. Parallel convergence comes down. No one's going to follow on that, but Hecarim ultimate is down.
They've shoved ROCCAT back away from the Baron pit, though. Millenium now have some sense of control. If they can clear out some of the wards. Ooh, Taps out on his own.
Oh,
Careful.
not where you wanted to be. Raze gets it, is not going to get anything else, though. Malzahar on the side, locking down Memento. Can he get the kill back? Looks like the answer is yes. The reset on the Malefic Visions as well. So much damage across this teamfight. Prank snaps back, but it may be to his death. Nope, Betsy there to back him up. Kaze running forward. The Swain may be unkillable, but he can't kill anyone else in return. Millenium picking up the 2 for 0.
No exhaust and no real way of dealing with the damage coming out from Malzahar at that point. They couldn't exhaust Kaze, so have to back away from the rest of the team fight. And Steelback did a good amount of damage to begin with, and it was the right call from ROCCAT to go aggressive on Tabs, who was out on his own, but they couldn't fully capitalize on it. Tabs just burned his heal very early on to make sure he survived through that fight. And now Millenium are looking for another turret here. Millenium have got...
And they're going to get it. Betsy takes a stack and concussive blows. Parallel convergence comes out. And Millenium are going to back off. There's another dragon in 12 seconds. Joko's making his way. He's got low mana. I think he's going to be able to take this one. We'll have to see if ROCCAT are going to be able to grab their first dragon. This one will be contested once again. Joko locked up as we go into the replay.
Yeah, going into the replay. This is the engage on Tabs. Looks like Joko is out safe from that engage. So the suppression onto Memento allowed them to take him down, got that spread of the Malefic Visions at that point as well. And Betsy tries to come in from the top side, but managed to get a couple of lockdowns there, but that was about it. And just looking at the bottom left of your screen, we have seen the Ocean Drake go over to ROCCAT. So not quite as useful perhaps as the 2 Mountain Drakes coming out, but still, I guess is 1 dragon secured out of 3
better,
for ROCCAT.
Better than to give another one away. Yeah, an unfortunate set of circumstances for ROCCAT and Dragons this game.
Yeah, considering how much damage to the Dragons ROCCAT have done. Basically, the rest of them has been
That's a stat. Yeah, that's a stat I'd love to see, because I would guess that it's 90% of the damage dealt to Dragons in this game has been ROCCAT.
Yep.
And a crisp, however much 2 smites worth of damage is for Joko.
And honestly, that has been one of the most frustrating things of watching ROCCAT in this game specifically, is I feel like perhaps they're underestimating Millenium. Being a little greedy. Hang on, Memento.
Oh, Kaze does so much damage. Cast comes out. Millenium now are able to back off, but the pony's been set back. Use the ultimate as well, but Joko's getting collapsed on. Not going to get locked up by the Nevermore. Now dashing out. Both teams just seem so ready for a fight, but ROCCAT have to be smart about this. Kaze, really just a monster, bloodthirster. Yeah. Hasn't even finished boots 2.
He's like, I don't need boots, I just need a bigger sword. That's all I gotta get. He's been playing too much Howling Abyss. That is exactly what the shopkeeper would tell you on there. But 4, 1, and 2 on this Fiora is basically uncontrollable over in the side lane. ROCCAT need to try and force fights together when they have a lot of their team fighting tools available to them, and that's how you drag away the Fiora. As long as the lane isn't kind of where it is right now, which is actually a problem, they can't afford to force a fight because Fiora...
Oh, they're going to try to do it. Ult comes in, counter, looking to turn. Malzahar does so much damage, and they're fighting in the midst of everything he has, but ROCCAT are able to get this. Colin comes out, Betsy running for his life as the healing is mitigated. Trying to heal what he can in the meantime, but here comes the Fiora flank. Betsy, Zonya's up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Fiora over the wall. She's going to look to grab a couple kills, but Steelback, fancy footwork. Parang on the way in. It's not enough. He may have sent himself to death as well. He's going to get stunned by the concussive blows. Double kill drops in the end for Kaze, and Millenium absolutely massacre ROCCAT.
And ROCCAT were in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation right there, because ROCCAT wanted to engage, but Parang couldn't teleport in until Kaze had started the channel on his, because if he does teleport out of the lane, Kaze just takes the inhib. Now Millenium are just going to take away the Baron.
Memento goes over and he gets it! Oh, a little payback on the side of ROCCAT for Joko's earlier steals. Memento may not make it out with his life. Or will he?
Oh!
In true fashionable form.
Oh man, this has been a game of missed smites and a lot of tears around objectives. Raze managed to get the Baron buff as well. Here was the engage. Look at the top laner positioning here. Watch Kaze drop all the way back in the lane as his team fight progresses. ROCCAT took too much damage, and the reason Parang can't go here is because until he sees this moment, he cannot be sure that Fiora won't just push for his inhib. So Steelback is still in the mix of this fight. They can't fully get themselves out because there's too much damage from Millenium here. Parang ends up falling as well, just from the Fiora damage. And how does this happen? How because Braum is blocking here, and
Boom!
Where
80
was
health!
Smite? Oh, he's not alive. That's
no...
how it happened. Okay.
All right. Apologies to the audience.
Yeah,
Maybe you noticed before us, but no smite is definitely a problem. It's definitely not no smite, no problem.
Yeah, okay. Whew. We were getting a little bit...
Oh, Joko caught out. ROCCAT going to look for a kill back as he's going to try to knock them away. Glacial Fisher to follow up as well, but look at that last teamfight damage. Fiora may have cleaned up, but grouping up against the Malzahar was definitely a death sentence there for ROCCAT.
Yeah, grouping up right on top of that null zone. Feel a little stupid for not realizing Joko was dead for the majority of the Baron attack.
As do I.
Yeah, well, that's why we got the replay sometimes. I was like, why was there no smite? Look at the bottom of the screen. And I'm like,
Joko had smite. Ah, yes, but he was dead and nowhere near the Baron.
Nice.
Damn you, smite. No global range.
Hey, we were saying, I said it was a game of miss smites. I guess that one we can, let go.
Someone finally hit a smite is what we can say, and it was Memento.
Nice.
ROCCAT, though, using this Baron buff to push in, but the Fiora, an endless threat on the top side of the map, and one they're going to have to respect. Parang, a little bit more tools to deal with her now, but does not get easier from here. She picks up the Executioner's Calling, a special treat just for Betsy in the coming team fights.
Yeah, man, it's a big point of contention, or at least like a big praise to how Kaze's been playing. The fact that he can just go, I'll just build an Executioner's Calling. Doesn't really matter. I need it.
That's how you know you're ahead.
Swain, yeah.
It's probably like a GA coming, and it's like, I'm good.
Just have a quick stop offer, something to make sure that you can deal with the Swain, because that was one of the other things is Millenium have not taken an Ignite outside of that, so relying a little bit more on the grievous wounds that comes from the Morel and Omicron, but at that point you've got to get them down below 35% health, which is always the tricky bit at first.
It's nice now Kaze can come in, inflict those grievous wounds at any time. Now Millenium, they're waiting in the brush. Maybe looking for an opportunity here. There's a dragon on the way. The new and improved Cloud Drake.
Improved. I agree. It is improved. It's still satisfying.
Not going to stop him from starting to fight, though. They move forward. Kaze caught out. He's going to parry at least one ability, but now he's in the middle of the team, and he gets shut down. ROCCAT, they're taking control. They are on the hunt, and they're pushing forward. Masterwork blocks what he can, but there's no tickets left for him to get out, or is there? Stand behind me. Memento moving forward, looking for the parallel convergence for Parang, and they're just going to keep pushing. They have made the murder train, and they're going to completion. The turnaround, Pretty, trying to keep this one rolling. Betsy suddenly on the backside. Tabs doesn't have the tools to fight him. He goes golden. He cleans house. ROCCAT take control.
Big team fight win for ROCCAT here is going to result likely in them attempting the mid inhibitor for now, but Pretty is here and he does have enough wave clear. Memento is dangerously close to dying here. If he gets comboed out by Malzahar, he has to be careful. Here comes the TP to keep the cannon minion alive so they can take down this inhib. 24 seconds still on a lot of the wave clear that's going to come out from the rest of the Millenium lineup, so this inhib is gone, and ROCCAT finally find their form in a team fight against Millenium, but this has been a very back and forth performance.
Absolutely, and the gold, 1.5k difference still present between these teams. That is nothing at 30 minutes, but man, the inhibitor getting broken down is everything.
And again, it's all because Kaze gets comboed up, exhausted when he wants to bring out the damage, and hit right back into Steelback's waiting arms. That exhaust was still running. No real way of the Fiora actually taking out Steelback, so that's why that's not a dangerous play, and in fact is an okay one. And for the rest of this fight, Memento and Parang always moving forward. Raze with a beautiful double combo manages to catch Tabs just before he gets the headbutt away. I guess Alistair did get the change to make that combo a little bit easier, but still credit where it's due at that point for ROCCAT. They managed to take out the team fight, take out the inhibitor, and have put themselves in control. As you said, it's only a slight lead for now, but a lead is a lead.
And of course, as that replay was going down, we did see Millenium pick up the Cloud Drake for themselves. Next Drake will, of course, be the Elder. Get that overlay updated in just a moment. But in the meantime, ROCCAT now backing off. Minute and 40 left for Baron. They've seen what one Baron can do for them, and they're looking for another. Of course, Millenium caught in a little bit of a tough spot here. Fiora going to be a lot harder to split pressure. There's a wave of supers constantly coming down that mid lane.
It's fairly difficult for Millenium to take extended team fights in this as well, because ROCCAT have two Guardian Angels. One of them has been popped, and obviously all of their team fighting prowess alongside that, so you basically have to kill Echo 3 times. He's got the GA, the ultimate, all of those stuns that are going to come out on fairly low cooldown as well. At parallel conversions right now, only just over 14 seconds. When you look at it, going to be able to get perhaps 2 stuns during an engage. With the GA, should certainly be able to. So for Millenium, they have to very difficultly balance a lot of their damage. They have to somehow kill Steelback and Betsy, and then after that, they don't really have too much more to deal with. The damage that comes from Parang is somewhat negligible unless he can stick on a target.
Of course, news from the stats overlords has come in. 30k damage has already come out from Pretty this game. Only 17k from Betsy. But when we look back at that one team fight where Malzahar just got to lay everything down over a wall, I think he burned through at least 5k health in that single instant. So definitely terrifying. I feel like there's Millenium are absolutely not out of the game yet. And when we look at this, small gold advantage for ROCCAT, pretty negligible in the face of those extra dragons. And I think it's all going to come down to who gets this Baron.
And that's the thing, is it's actually somewhat deceptive that ROCCAT have a lead, because you look at it, 6-2 Fiora, 6-2 Malzahar. I'm like, oh, well, ROCCAT is slightly in the lead on this one, guys. I certainly feel like Millenium absolutely have the opportunity.
In trouble, ulted down, knocked back. He's still ticking forward. He's going to lose some health. Walks back into the null zone. That's not what you want, but Betsy running rampant, and Steelback is still alive. Keep your eyes on the Fiora because she is not coming to the fight. Betsy trying to get more, trying to push forward, looking for a bit more damage. Laser Bird comes down. Memento not going to push any further. Never move dashed out of. As both members make it to safety, but Fiora does not even use the teleport in that exchange.
Because she couldn't. Parang knew he didn't have his teleport, so he has one option. He must throw himself at Kaze. He knows he has a GA. He knows he has his ultimate, so he can survive through the trade while the rest of the team fight is going on. He knew he couldn't cross the distance as well, and had to keep Kaze in his lane against him. We'll see it in the replay when it eventually comes up. But Pretty falling in that team fight means that all of this gold that is on Millenium, every part of their power was split into across the map, and they couldn't contend with the rest of ROCCAT. Memento still wants to go, but they don't feel like taking the Baron out right now. They had the opportunity, but did not go for it.
I guess there's been so many steals this game that they don't even want to take the risk. They had the man advantage. The only person threatening them was Joko, and they don't even go for the opportunity.
So keep at least a little focus on the minimap here as this fight progresses. Raze gets blasted down to begin this fight. He's already basically a goner before this starts, which normally would be a good thing for Millenium, meaning the exhaust is out of the equation. But watch what Parang does on the minimap here. Chases Kaze through the jungle as the rest of the fight is going. Steelback stays alive for the majority of this, and that then allows ROCCAT to kind of regroup on top of it. Memento picks up the rest of the kills, and Betsy is providing enough threat to push Millenium back away. So ROCCAT managed to split Millenium up and take the 2 fights simultaneously.
ROCCAT, unfortunately, did not really get a whole lot from winning that team fight. Yes, the gold lead extends a little bit. They're not able to get any larger objectives. They are able to clear out a bit more jungle, get down a bit more vision, maybe set up for a future fight. However, now after all this, they finally decide to pull the trigger on the Baron. All 5 members grouped here. Fiora still pushing on the bottom side. Masterward caught out. He's all alone. Raze looking for backing off now as the ultimate comes out. Gragas knocks him back into the team. Betsy going gold. And Memento is going to respawn in a second, but Betsy has to flash over the wall. And here comes Kaze. But he's going to get cut down almost instantaneously. Steelback is a man without fear, but Masterwork is here to block his shots as Kaze drops the Echo, but drops to the bird himself. Betsy, still alive, comes back in to turn the fight in ROCCAT's favor, and now, with no fear left, they're going to push for the Baron.
Massively extended fight from both teams here results in the ROCCAT victory over the team fight. Now they look for the Baron. They've got that one down. No real steal opportunity was available for Millenium. And that was a pretty hectic fight, and there's a couple of really influential things. Note, Tabs has just picked up a Mortal Reminder, so as Betsy goes aggressive into this fight and takes the damage from Tabs, he's so close to dying, but the Zhonya's allows him to stay alive. The flash over the wall to keep
Tabs
himself
fumbles
safe.
the dash too.
Exactly, Tabs isn't able to keep on top of him, and as they push forward here, parallel convergence from Parang, right as Kaze comes up, is able to at least give himself the time to get the shield into the GA, and it allows the rest of the damage to come out from ROCCAT. Very extended team fight with just the survival tools coming out from ROCCAT, but look at the damage combined from Steelback and Betsy. That is an insane amount. Like 13,500 damage from 2 people.
Ooh, the 4-item Sivir approaching the 5th item now. Betsy similar with a massive impact for the team. ROCCAT say we already got the Baron, why not go for the Elder as well? Joko is here though. They have the vision. ROCCAT aren't sweeping it out.
I've seen it with this ward multiple times.
Wait, is he going to go for it, Joko? Locked up, stun does still come down. Parang, secure helps the MVP. I was convinced that he could go for the steal there, but Parang going to make sure that that drops down. They may only have one dragon backing them up, but with the Elder buff as well, ROCCAT now poised to take just about any fight that they're placed in.
Parallel convergence. Parang.
There's just zoning them off the team.
There's a lot of Parang parallel.
Yep.
That's a tongue twister. That is a difficult one.
Ah, yes. Well, continuing forward. Oh, aggressive moves coming in. Kaze caught out. Kaze burned down instantly. Steal back on a rampage. Snap back from Parang and Masterwork. Suddenly the one left alone. Staring contest comes in. Instantly canceled. Parang still alive as the tower drops. And Betsy, the fearless frontliner, Raze making the engage happen. Team members starting to drop. The double kill comes in from Betsy. ROCCAT cut through Millenium one last time as they push in to take game 1.
It didn't look as convincing as ROCCAT would have liked. Millenium coming out, firing at the beginning of game 1, but ROCCAT will be the ones taking game 1 in this best of 5.
Truly an insane turnaround after a few mistakes in the early game. ROCCAT looking so down and out. The 4-1 Fiora seemed unstoppable, but amazing team fighting prowess carrying them through to the end. And Millenium just walking away empty-handed in game 1.
A weird draft for this game as well, or at least the pacing on the draft, and ends up kind of completely different to what other teams have done against ROCCAT.
And those fights were so back and forth.
Yeah.
So many members with insane amounts of sustain. The Fiora with the double lifesteal items, the Swain, the Sivir in the back lines. And it was, for so many of those fights, it was hard to call. But as we got later and later in the game, you can't group up against the Sivir Swain. It's simply too much damage.
So tough to group up against it. And I mean, despite losing the game, Pretty still had the most damage of nearly 48,000 damage in that game.
Ah, well. Good
a
spot
lot
to
of
be.
damage for Swain and Sivir came right in those last 2 team fights. But man, I mean, Steelback once again showing if you give him the space, he's able to clean up. Betsy showing if you give him the Swain, despite it being somewhat out of the meta with a lot of mid laners, still able to perform fairly well, especially into that Malzahar matchup as well. Normally a very, very tough one.
I think what surprised me the most was how, despite being behind, ROCCAT continually went for those team fights and took some of those risks and were confident in their ability to outplay. But at the same time, Millenium, you got the queen of split pushing, the unstoppable split pusher, and you're sending her to group and team fights. Or you're not sending her to group and team fights and she's not doing anything on the sideline. It feels like there were some issues there.
ROCCAT, though, their fans will breathe a sigh of relief for Memento because honestly, I think if that Baron goes over to Millenium and they have that to push, I don't know whether ROCCAT really come back in that
You
game.
don't come back from the Baron buffed up Fiora. But of course, ROCCAT has fired the first shot in this best of 5. And to take a closer look at how they did it, let's send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, CFAM. We're going to kick off straight away with picks and bans. A little bit of surprise. Malzahar, not first picked, not first rotation on red side either. Made it all the way through to, the second rotation with Lucian Melz. What did you make of picks and bans?
Very surprising pick and ban phase from ROCCAT, especially in my opinion. I think Graga's first pick is something we see quite often. I don't mind it specifically. I would have gone Malz myself. But then ROCCAT not going Malzahar in their rotation is like, you've obviously expected this. As soon as you see the Malzahar being open, if you wanted Sivir Alistar this badly, you should just ban the Malzahar instead of Karma or Trundle. There's no way one of these two picks are more impactful than a Malzahar. So just ban that instead, give them away to Gragas, take this Sivir Alistar in your first rotation, would have been okay. Until a specific top lane pick happened, Pulse.
Yeah, they picked the Echo into Fiora, which I just do not understand. That is not a winning matchup. That does not work. You have to be so confident that Echo is going to do enough for your team to make it work. That's not really what we saw.
So you can be confident all you want, but then Fiora gets first blood, and then Fiora gets a great bait. The first replay we have is just some of these kills, and Pulse, I know you felt quite strongly about what this meant for Kaze and for Millenium.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right here was just Kaze doing really well, but it was also the matchup in the bottom lane because Millenium were able to get standard lanes in Australia lanes, and the matchup is just good. You get free riposte from 3-hit passive and parallel convergence. Echo, his trading pattern is poke, and Fiora just beats him in poke. And then from there, he just got super, super fed. We had a 20-minute Fiora with 2 items.
So Millenium were going to win. They had a fed Fiora. They had the ability to split push. They had the game in the bag. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, I mean, first of all, the Baron steal happened, which obviously was a bit of revenge for Memento. It's the kind of steals where it's so hard to like blame Millenium for making the wrong call, because this is actually a correct call in this situation. They just won another team fight, and then Memento comes in, no smite, because Gragas is obviously dead.
Yep.
And they think Memento is gone, but it's so hard to still go like, yeah, Millenium, you should never gone Baron in the first place. I mean, if you burst it down in time, I think there's still a high enough chance you get it. This was then a follow-up team fight, and the problem here is that Kaze, the fed Fiora, jumps an Alistar. And then he gets knocked back by the Alistar, and he dies, so he actually had 0 impact in the fight, and to me, Millenium had this game completely in the bag. And then we just see a terrible team fight here from them.
But it wasn't just one as well. It was a lot of individual misplays by specific players coming from top lane and mid lane. That wasn't the first time that Kaze did not have a good team fight. Previously to that, he just like jumps into the tank, gets like 1 auto attack off when Steelback was standing there with no flash. Following that as well, mid laner Pretty just tries to blow up Alistar. And before that as well, like just bad target selection in general.
And just overall, you know, I feel like both teams had problems in this game. Again, we talk about the Echo pick quite a lot. Another reason it's so bad is because ROCCAT will automatically win team fights with their composition. Like, that's why they picked the Swain into Malzahar. It's why Betty likes the matchup as well, because you can first of all push him in lane and then be very, very strong in team fights and never die to like a full Malzahar combo. Problem is then when you pick their Echo into Fiora, you will automatically lose that one side lane for the entire game long. So you actually give a win condition over to Millenium, which they were basically using to win the game until the Baron steal. So ROCCAT should have lost.
Except that Millenium didn't really play those side lanes. You know,
True,
like
they didn't start the team
opted
fight.
into those team fights and they made those mistakes. It felt to me like this game was kind of defined by individual decision making. We got a couple replays that might highlight some of that. First of all, like Masterwork getting dove in a tower. Deficio, you were losing it backstage. What is wrong with this play?
I mean, to me, this is something I see in the Challenger series quite often, these kind of mistakes, where the enemy mid laner pushes out and leaves the lane, and you then still feel like, I can sit under my tower. It's okay, I can defend. You're against a level 6 Alistar. At this point, if you're Millenium, you should have left this tower ages ago and just moved your Malzahar to the top lane and just trade tower for tower. But here, he stays on the tower because he's like, yeah, maybe there's a chance he's not here. Maybe I can survive the dive. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're too slow at calling it. These are the kind of macro things you learn very quickly in the LCS, otherwise you get punished every game. But I see it time and time again in Challenger, and you end up losing a kill and a tower, which is just not okay for such a simple play.
I like that. Learning in the LCS, you don't make those mistakes. But something that ROCCAT learned was our next replay. Joko does not care about who owns the dragon. Pulse, is this something that you expected?
Yeah, welcome to Challenger, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is what happens when you just have 0 respect for the Gragas coming in.
But the worst part here is, if you look at the map, both times Millenium were positioned wrong on the map when Mountain Drake spawned. They sent the 80 carry support to the top lane after taking top lane tower with Mountain Drake alive. So obviously ROCCAT sets up for the dragon and should get it for free. The next one, Betty. That's a mix of Betty and Pretty. Pretty goes top lane against the TP Swain. And again, the team is like, oh, let's still hover around the dragon. Maybe we can get a fight or try and steal it. And they managed to do it again, where they were supposed to lose another dragon for nothing. It should have been 2 dragons for nothing over to ROCCAT. Yet, you know, Millenium steals it despite actually having the wrong play.
Yeah.
Pulse, you predicted potentially 3-1. You predicted
indeed.
Potentially Millenium was going to pick up the first game. Do you still think they have what it takes after seeing that?
I don't know, man. Mentality plays such a big part coming into this as well. Losing the first game is big for both teams. Like, I don't know from here. I'm still going to stick with 3-1, though.
Okay.
I think this game highlighted a lot of issues for Millenium, also for ROCCAT. Honestly, both teams showed some issues. I think a big problem is the fact that the AD carry matchup is so sided towards Steelback. Like, he was great in this game. Tabs actually dealt less damage than Joko on the Gragas in this game.
Wow.
He could just never get into team fights and actually deal damage, and it's not okay when your team is winning a lot of these fights in the start. And that's where we get a big difference, and ROCCAT is going to take it.
Yeah, oh, ROCCAT. I mean, you did predict that 3-0 or 3-1. Just as an aside, despite losing, Millenium still dealt 20,000 more damage than their opponents. Guys, we are going to take a quick break before Game 2 between ROCCAT and Millenium. And before we go, a little something for you. We're always humbled and moved by how much League of Legends influences the lives of people who play the game. At 10 p.m. Central European Summertime at twitch.tv/League of Legends, a new documentary series called Live Play will premiere, featuring a Q&A with the director. Here's a sneak peek.